Hi, and welcome to the 30-minute PowerPoint presentation webinar on Passwords 101, brought to you by AARP ElderWatch. AARP ElderWatch is a right now 19-year partnership between AARP and the Colorado Attorney General's Office. We do education and outreach across the state of Colorado, and we have a volunteer staffed helpline to walk people through when they have questions about frauds or scams or want to find the correct ways to report them. You can check out all of our events that are coming up through this web link here. Just note that the audio lines are muted. You can type your questions into the chat or question and answer box, and I will answer them at the end. And this will be recorded and posted to our YouTube channel if you would like to visit that to see this recording again. Let's start off with some Colorado statistics. I just want to mention this because it helps. So AARP ElderWatch did a survey of adults 18 and older in 2020 to see some responses to internet use. So 90% of people said that they access the internet at least once, if not several times a day. And the top reasons for being online are listed here. Email being the first one, social media, news, paying bills, and buying products are also really popular. With all of these accounts come usernames, passwords, important financial or personal information, and so we really want to keep this information safe. About 60% of people have a different password for all of their online financial accounts, which is great, but still not 100%. And also 20% of people have a variation of the same password for their financial accounts. 13% use the same password for 2 or more of their accounts. And then just as a quick side, 20% of people said that they don't have a passcode or fingerprint or facial scan or some sort of security on their smartphone. Your smartphone has so much information about us and has access to so many other apps and accounts that it's important to do that. So keeping those things in mind as we move forward. So today we're going to talk about the most commonly used passwords, how to create stronger ones, and using strength checkers, these programs that help you check how strong that password is, managing all of these passwords and accounts with password managers, and then adding two-factor authentication. The first thing you need to know is that passwords are like underpants. You should change them often, keep them private, and never share them with anyone. I'll also add to that you need more than one, and you shouldn't leave them lying around. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. What do criminals do if they get your passwords? So scams, including hacking accounts, sometimes taking over the account and requesting finances, money to receive that back, ransomware, and just plain identity theft, which could be used to attack you and your personal and financial information, or pretend to be you and attack your friends and family by requesting information or money from them. How do criminals get this information? One is data breaches. From data breaches, if they receive usernames, passwords, scammers will try those passwords for other accounts and usernames and passwords for various other sites, companies, and accounts, and so to see if anybody has recycled and reused the passwords, which is why it's important to have more than one. They also use social engineering, so it is common for people to use similar things around important dates, animals, spouses, kids, names, those sorts of things. So they can use social engineering to collect information about you and try different combinations of those important people or dates in your life. Another way that scammers get a hold of passwords is through pretending to be customer service or tech support, and that they will help you if you provide more information about yourself or about your accounts, and then they get access to those that way. So never share them with anyone. Here are the top passwords of 2019. 2020 hasn't come out yet, but if you see this list here of the most common passwords, some of them are probably not surprising. Simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, password. QWERTY, if you don't know that, that's the first 6 of your top of your keyboard there. The rest of that is the whole top line. And if you think you're smart by not using the top line, the bottom row of the keyboard is also on the top list of passwords. You can see some other ones here. I love you, welcome, ABC 1, 2, 3. All of these are terrible passwords to be using. 1 out of every 142 passwords out there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, making it the most common for 2019. Some other honorable mentions that I have include things like monkey, football, Superman, and Star Wars, people using sports team names. You'll also start to see in the top 50 of passwords or common passwords used is that people's names, whether your own name or a spouse or a child's name. Michael and Ashley, unfortunately, made the top list of names used in the last couple of years. So if you have one of these, we should really consider changing those passwords. And how do we create new passwords? Don't use dictionary words. Don't use words that are easily guessable by like places or sports teams or your favorite stuff. Again, this goes to the social engineering. Someone can be able to guess. There's statistics out there about how easy it is for a friend or a family member to take a guess as to what a password for that person would be. And this is how you'd be able to do it if you do too many passwords that are similar to something important in your life. You want to use a combination of letters, numbers, symbols. So there are 26 letters in the alphabet and 10-digit numbers and lots of symbols that you can add to those things, and check it out. Adding also capital letters and lowercase letters to try to mix things up and make it more of a different combination. We talk a lot also about using random words or using passphrases instead of a password. The new thing has been a phrase. The longer the password, the better. And so using full sentences or phrases or lyric songs and stuff will help you, one, make it easier to remember, but also keep that password long. And on here, 1 in 6 people use a password that consists of their pet's name. Take a thought of all of your passwords and see if that matches something you might do. The next part is, here's some examples of stronger passwords. Now, some of these get to be so strong and complicated that it makes it harder to remember. So there's a balance here of something that is still accessible for you, something you can still navigate and type out and be able to include. If you start adding too many various variables, then it gets harder for us to type them. But here are some ideas. Simply changing O's to zeros. Maybe instead of an S, you put a $sign. Some things that would help when you say, I love colorful fall leaves, or when I visit Hawaii, I like to snorkel, are some simple ways to make a couple of adjustments to make that even more of a challenge. I also have a few here. I was going to say, take a guess at what that word password means, but it was too complicated. So that first one there, pass, go, and collect $200. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. You can get an idea of how that works. There's also things online that are password generators. So there's websites where you can put in what the password length, if you wanted to include symbols, numbers, those variables, and then just click a button and it will bring you up a randomized algorithm of letters, numbers, symbols, whatever you asked for, to create an absolutely random, confusing password. The thing about that would be, once again, how difficult is it for you to be able to remember that as well? Well, the piece of this, in addition, is how once you've created a password, can you keep that password? Should we be changing our passwords? Research and professionals out there have different opinions about this. How often should you change your password? It really depends. Some say that when we change them more often, we start to get into a routine or take some shortcuts, and that makes our passwords weaker, so it might not be all of that beneficial to change the password. But others, of course, say it's important. Some of the big ways that we should would be if an account or device was compromised, if that password was out there, if you hear of a breach of that password or of that company that you use, certainly change those ones. The more simple or weak that your password is, the more likely it should be changed and more often. And especially for sensitive information like our email accounts and our financial accounts. I say this especially for your email because if you try to log into a different account and you do a forgot password, often it will send you a link or send you a temporary password to your email. So if a scammer or a criminal has access to your email, they can find out a lot of information about you as to what other accounts you have from the emails that have come in and be able to access your account through that verification and that email and be able to access a lot of other things. So with these, the other part is how important is that account? Now, if it's a general forum and you're writing or reading people's posts to help you with gardening tips or something, probably not as important to change your password or have a really strong one. But again, if it's financial or it's emails, those are going to be the biggest priority. Now we have lots of challenging passwords, some of them randomly generated. We're changing our passwords all the time. How will you remember these? One of the most common ways is through password managers. This is the way that's the most suggested. Of course, we can always have notebooks and other things, but you really shouldn't be keeping those lying around. So password managers are a way to make this all easier for us. You remember the one password for your password manager account, and that account remembers all of your other usernames and passwords. Here's some examples of kind of what that would look like when you get onto it. It lists the different sites. You can click that site to then see and be reminded of what your password is. Some things to consider with password managers are the cost. Some are free, some cost money. There's other things like, is it based off of the cloud or is it on a device? And so if you use multiple devices, a computer, a laptop, a tablet, and a cell phone, you may want the ability to access your manager through all of those devices. And so a cloud-based might be the way. The amount of passwords you would like to store, a lot of these different password managers allow a certain amount of passwords before you need to pay, or only maybe the more affordable or the free versions have a limit to those. There are really a lot of different variables when it comes to the password managers. You can get some that also allow you to add other financial account information or health data, and you can add this to have one secure location to find what is your passport number or your driver's license copy and all of those things under a password manager. Some will autofill your forms or even alert you if there's a breach of an account or a website that you have listed in your password manager to help you know when you should change some of those passwords. Here's a list of some of the various password managers out there that are on the top right now. Of course, you can pick and should find one that works best for you, but here's some of the different examples. Also, you might find that your web browsers, such as Google Chrome or Safari, have built-in managers, again, usually for that one browser. So you wouldn't be able to save a password to your Google Chrome, but then open it in your Safari. You'd have to somehow have kind of that in-between bridge, which is other types of password managers. But those are other options out there. Some of them are not well encrypted, and so we need to keep that in mind too when it comes to your web-based browsers. These other common managers are really well known and secure and have updates and things like that to keep them secure. Of course, that is also a password that you should be changing on an often basis so that you keep that secure. Here's some more information on password strength checkers. So there are sites out there that are completely free. You can type in your password and it will tell you whether this seems like a strong one or a weak one. They won't remember your password. They don't even know an account or anything else about you. It's just a interesting way to see how strong that is. We see a lot of our accounts these days have this even right there and won't let you continue if your password isn't meeting what their strong or strength, very strong password requirements are. A thing to know, though, is I took the password capital A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I put it into 3 different password managers or password generators to see what they say about it. Password Meter told me that it was a very strong password and gave it an 81% score. How Secure My Password said that it would take only 2 weeks for a computer to crack that password, while My One Login said it could be in as little as 0.21 seconds. They even have a comment there. Oh dear, using that password is like leaving your front door wide open. Of course, that is not a well secure password. It's one of the ones that's on the top list of passwords, but just shows you how these strength checkers all vary quite a bit, and we want to keep that in mind if you're using that to decide how strong your password is. Finally, I'd like to talk about two-factor authentication. You have been using two-factor authentication and might not even know it. This is when not only do you have one piece to show who you are, but there's a second security piece in place. Like when you go to an ATM, you can't just put your card into it. You have to also enter a PIN. Or if you are cashing a check, they want to see a photo ID to see that your face matches the name that they have on there. These are very common and even more common now with our online accounts. Some things that there's 3 different types of two-factor authentications, or ones that we talk about at least. One is something you know. Sometimes you'll enter your password and it will require another security piece like a question. What is your zip code? What is your mother's maiden name? And you have to have an answer to that to be able to verify who you are. This would mean that if that password was ever compromised or ever found through social engineering or other things, hopefully they wouldn't know the answer to your security question or something else about you. Something you have. This has been another one that's even more common out there, either a card or a fob that you would swipe, or this is when we see it of people, of the sites telling you that they're going to send you a code through a text message or call you with a code for you to input. Things where they send you an email after you enter your password and you have to click the link or input the code. So it's something you have access to a phone, access to email, where they can do a second authentication. Again, not just the password, but another way to verify you too. The final one is something you are. This is the part where we add fingerprints, facial or retina scans, or really just a photo ID to see that your face matches the face that they have to be you, or your ID matches your name. These are the different ways we have two-factor authentication. And when should you use this? How do you know how to use it? You can check the settings within the account that you're looking for. A lot of our online accounts offer two-factor authentication, though it might not be a requirement at setup. It's an additional feature you'd have to add to that. You can also visit this website. I really like twofactorauth.org. It has a list of a bunch of websites, and whether or not they support two-factor authentication, you can use that to verify or ask before you go into your account to see this within the settings. So when it comes to those different ways, something we know, something we have, or something we are, one way that an authentication could be done are through Authenticator Apps. So these are a way that we can use time-based one-time passwords to provide that something we know / something we have feature. So it's an app that you could download onto a phone, or you can have on your computer, and it will provide you with a code that is changing every 1 minute or 3 minutes or something, and you have to provide what that code is within that time limit. These are, really helpful for keeping things secure if you have that ability to add that extra function in. There's a listing here of a few different ones that are really common. Google Authenticator is certainly one of them at the top right now, and you can use those for various different accounts. It's not just for Google products, but authenticators for lots of different things. Some final tips: choose a password that is complex. Obviously, do not reuse passwords for multiple accounts, especially our important ones like emails, financial, personal information. Always log out of your sites. We don't want them hanging out in the background, especially if you're using shared computer spaces. And change or update your passwords often. Remember that passwords are like underpants. Change them often, keep them private, and never share them with anyone. Have some multiples on hand as well. Now we'll go to some questions and also provide you with the AARP Elder Watch phone number. You can call our helpline and we can answer questions that you might have or help you through some of these examples. We also take reports on frauds and scams and other samples as well. So here's the phone number, 800-222-4444. We're option 2. Okay. One of the questions I have is, do you follow all the password rules? Eek. So yes and no. Again, it goes back to what programs or what accounts we're using. So certainly for my email and my financial accounts, I'm using very complex passwords and changing them often. When it comes to some of my other ones that aren't as important, like my newspaper subscription account or something, I don't need to have it be too secure or change it very often. And so I don't have any credit cards or financial information associated to it. Maybe you won't change it as much. Social media is another area that I like to change my password often and hope that you will too. If a social media account is hacked, there's so many other things that a scammer can find out about you or put your friends and family at risk as well. Let's see, we have another question. Do VPNs protect my password? Very good question. So I considered whether I should talk about VPNs on this one, and we'll certainly have other talks about technology and scams where we talk about VPNs. This is when we have way that your computer or the program doesn't know where you are located. Now, I might have this completely off base, but to my knowledge, a VPN isn't going to stop what your password knowledge, what the password is when it comes to things like data breaches or social engineering. It may stop people knowing what your password is when it is something you're typing in like a keystroke logger or other things within your account. I might not have the full answer to that, and you should contact our AARP Elder Watch so we can talk more one-on-one as to what sorts of VPNs, why you would have one, and if they're important for you. I really appreciate everybody listening in today. And again, please contact the AARP Elder Watch helpline, 800-222-4444 for more information or to report a fraud or scam.